You're now in a position to fully understand the most complex clone type, which is the reference. Let's get started with this same cone object that has the bend modifier. I'll hold down Shift and clone the object, but this time I'll make a reference. You should understand by now that the stack tells a story, and I can see that the bend modifier and the cone are part of an instanced pipeline because they appear in bold. Changes that I make to the bend modifier or to the base object will affect all of the instances. In fact, the functionality here is identical to an instance. The only difference is that there's a bar at the top here. It's called the derived object line. If I select the source object, observe that it does not have a bar. So references are one-way links. Again, changes that I make to this instance affect the reference. I'll go back and select the reference, and the bar is currently selected in the stack. I know that because nothing appears down here when the bar is selected. So now I'd like to place a modifier above the bar. I'll go to the modifier list and select Twist. I'll just increase the twist angle so you can see that happen in the screen. Twist appears in plain type, indicating that it's a unique modifier. Anything that appears above this bar has the potential to be unique. If I drag this twist modifier below that bar, it appears in bold because it's part of the instanced pipeline, and we see that appear over here on cone 1. I'll just drag it back above the bar, and that confines the twist to cone 2 only. So this is like the best of both worlds. You can share as much as you want, and you can have unique modifiers with a reference. Now, just to make it more interesting, I'll select this teapot, right-click on its taper modifier, and copy that to the clipboard. I'll go back to cone 2, right-click on the twist modifier, and say Paste Instanced. Now the taper modifier appears over here in italic text, telling us that it's connected and instanced to this other object. So you would expect now that any changes that you make to the taper affect cone 2 and the teapot. If you drag the taper modifier below the bar, it will become bold in addition to already being italic. That means that it's part of the instanced pipeline in addition to being an instanced modifier in its own right. So that means that any changes that you make to it now affect all 3 objects. So do you see how powerful this is once you understand the reference and the typography in the stack? You can get exactly what you want. If I make the taper modifier unique, it will lose its italic status, severing the link with the taper modifier on the teapot. However, it remains part of the instanced pipeline, so it should affect both cones, and indeed it does. Now, if I click on the taper modifier again and make it unique a second time, we're going to lose the bar because there will no longer be a distinction between what's instanced and what is unique. Now it's a completely unique pipeline, and so the changes that we make to this modifier at this point are confined to cone 2. So go ahead and experiment quite a lot with instancing modifiers and instancing pipelines, referencing pipelines, and so forth. You need to unravel this knot by experimentation. It's the best way to learn. It's important that you understand these differences so that you really get a handle on the stack as we get into some of the more interesting modeling techniques.